Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Golden Talks of 2020. Oh, I just started this new. I just started the first Golden Talks interview of this year, doing the things that I sometimes do with some mistakes. I'm sorry for that, but I know that all of you it's laughing a lot because of that. And as this is the first interview that we are doing, we are starting in an English version one more time, and we have an amazing guy that I have the privilege to have in Golden Talks today. Okay, and but before we start, I can see that there are some people here. Some of them are send some messages in Portuguese, other ones in English. So I want to know how everyone are today. How are you guys? Let me know, okay? And get prepared with your questions or comments because we are up to start our Golden Talks, the first edition of 2021, right? No, it's not 2021. I prepared 2021. Yeah, I prepared this so many times, but now I just make a confusion. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to have here on Golden Talks today, first edition of 2021, Franck Pachot. Hello, Frankie. How are you?
Hello, Gilson. How are you? Yeah, good, fine.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you here, and I'm very glad that you accept our invite. And today we have many things that it's very nice and interesting to talk, right?
Yeah, sure. I see there are also messages in French.
Yes, that's good. All right. So, to we start, can you just do some quick overview of where you are now and what you're doing, and then we're going to start with the other talks.
Yeah, where I am in Switzerland. I'm French, but I live in Switzerland for 10 years and I work there. And I'm at home because we all stay at home this time.
Right. And how is the pandemic? Are you home all the time? Are you um, able
It,
to go out to do
it
something?
always changes. We can go out, but not to work. And they changed from yesterday. Then it's more strict. Maybe some shops will close again, and yeah, it was funny the first time, and it was spring, but in winter and everything closed, and we don't know when and no restaurants. That's yeah. I think it's hard in every country.
Yeah, all right. It's almost the same here in Brazil. Yeah.
But
Unfortunately,
at least in IT, we still have our job, and then we are very lucky there.
yeah, this is important. That's true. And maybe what happened in the last year and this year will change how IT people will work from the future, right?
Yeah,
In the
yeah, yeah,
future. Yeah,
yeah. Zoom is not something new for us.
yeah, true. I am seeing some messages here, and Leonardo Ciccone said, "I'm fine. Don't need to panic. Thanks for that." Yeah, I'm feeling more comfortable now. It's just the start that sometimes hurts, but now I'm feeling fine. The English is working. Thanks God. uh, all right. So, Frankie, should we start our interview and our conversation? uh, I'm uh, I'm very surprised with so many things and so many titles that we have, and we also had discussed a lot about this, but let people know more about this. And to start, can you tell us how started everything to you on this IT world? How you started to get interested with computers, and how you started your career on that?
Yeah, interested. I think I was interested as a kid, especially when my parents got an Apple II, and I started to look at it to play games, but also to. This is where I discovered that with a simple command we can enter the magic of the assembler, and where everything is as a number. And I started to be interested by that. But I didn't think at that time about that as a job. And even when I was at the university first, I didn't know what to do, and I did math and physics only. And finally, if I went to a master in IT, it was more because I was kind of bored of doing only maths and physics. And in France, there was this master called Miage, where we had, of course, computers, of course, maths, but statistics, management, legal things, economics. And first I went there to see something different. And this is where I enjoyed the programming and databases. I can't hear you.
Okay, now it's
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry for that. Uh, I was saying that so you really started with math and physics, and after that you enter in database world, right?
Yeah. And it was really computer science for enterprises. So we did a bit of COBOL at that time. But I remember also that they had a kind of small mainframe for the COBOL and the things like that. But it was the first year where they had a Unix box, IBM AIX, and with the X terminal and doing graphics. And it was kind of the beta year where some of the students were able to do their work on this rather than on the green screen. And yeah, this is really where I enjoyed Unix.
All right, all right. So seeing those black and green colors on the screen make you felt you be interested on that.
Yeah, but it was also the beginning of Unix there, and doing some graphicals, and I think it was also the first time I was connected to internet, because universities had a connection to internet. So this is also where we started to send images between students, and discover that there is a network behind the computer as well.
Right, very nice, very nice. Oh, I can see that someone is talking maybe in French here in the comments. Take a
Yeah.
look on that. I have no idea how to say this, so please, you are the French guy here.
So Leonardo says, je suis votre travail depuis des années. C'est merveilleux d'avoir cette interview avec vous. Yeah, it's really nice as well to see people from everywhere. And it's, yeah, especially we were talking about the lockdown and the lack of conferences, and it's nice to have something live.
All right, all right. Someone, can you hear? This is live, guys. Someone behind, next the door, started doing this noise here. I'm sorry for that. Hope finish soon, okay? But I continues with the next question. And when you enter on the database world, right? What was the things that make you get some knowledge and understand how database work and Oracle works? Let us know a little bit more about that.
I think I was very lucky during this master. I had to do an internship, and I did it at a place where a small IT team, but really small, usually not doing development, had a small application to build, and it was on Oracle Forms. And I did, during the master, I did a bit of SQL, but not really programming in PL SQL and anything. And what was really nice, finally, was that at the beginning of the internship, nothing was ready to start to work. So I had nothing to do, but we had those books, so paper books, the documentation of Oracle. And then, as I had nothing to do, I started to read it. And read it from beginning to the end. And I think this was really, really useful. Probably not to remember everything, because you can imagine a junior in an internship, you cannot understand even 10% of what is in the Oracle documentation. But it was really nice, because Now I still know in which book I can find the information. Usually today we go to documentation through Google and we go directly in a place in the documentation without knowing exactly which book it is. And today I know it because I know what I find in the concept book. I know what I find in the SQL reference. I know that if I'm looking for a package, it's in the PL SQL one. And I have one of those books that were looking like that, Oracle 7.
All right, it's
That
good.
I find.
It's like on white on the first page, right? White,
Yeah.
let's say.
So this one was
Hmm.
I found it when I was working at CERN, and they have a lot of things everywhere, and this whole book.
Right. This is a good point that you mentioned, and that reading the official documentation helps a lot to understand not only the documentation but all the concepts and things that you are needing, right?
Yeah, the documentation, there is everything. And
Mm-hmm.
even today, sometimes I find something
Hmm.
that I didn't know on Oracle, and I'm thinking, is it a bug? It is normal on anything. And if you know where to find it in the documentation, you can see that every single thing is really documented, even exceptions, even specific things.
Yeah, that's good. And I also think that we know today we have many documentation for many databases, but maybe Oracle still have a very good documentation compared with other databases too. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I hope they will keep that.
Yeah.
Even if everything is autonomous, I hope we still have the documentation. Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, get this tip and read the official documentation can be very helpful. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
the concept manual. You have everything there. And everything, the good thing with the concept manual is what you will read today will still help you in 10 years because those are the concepts. The
right.
the syntax that can be different later and you may have to use it or not use it, but the concept, the manual, yeah, that's really a good read.
Right, good. And people are sending here some comments and questions. Rodrigo Mufalani, cheers for you. He is also in Europe. He say, yeah, kill the guy on next door, please, Jonathan. Okay, Jonathan. I have the gun here. Please do this favor for me. Yeah. And also, Erika Nagamini says very famous letters that it's RTFM. I'll not translate this, but you know what is the meaning, right? And this is
Yeah,
totally true, right? So RTFM for everyone. And
and that's something that's hard to do today because today we start it's so easy to build an environment and just when we have a problem look in Google, find some answers in a forum and Stack Overflow and anything, and we have the solution, but maybe we don't get all the concepts that are behind.
that's true. And he comes back. I will try to do other questions. I don't know if the audio is bad for you
That's
as it's
fine,
to me.
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tried to run away of all of this, but you know, sometimes you cannot control.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep moving. And I have a question here from Rodrigo George, and he's asking, as an ACE director and AWS hero, and congratulations for that, which one would you support in debate, OCR or AWS? So it's a good question.
Hi, Rodrigo. Very good question. My position is that I like all databases and I like everything, and I actually I do not compare. Uh, so I will support anything. As a consultant, I will support what the customer has chosen. I mean, if he didn't choose yet, I can help him to see the pros and cons of each solution. But finally, he will choose because I can recommend about the technical things, for example, and many things. But the choice is also in his context, and the choice sometimes is cultural or philosophical. I mean, you may want a converged database, or you may want a pre-built service, purpose-built services, and it's more philosophy. And whatever you choose will be okay if you use it correctly. I'm even I have a lot of colleagues. They don't want to hear about Oracle on Windows, for example. But for me, if a customer knows how to administrate Windows servers and doesn't have a clue about Linux server, then probably the choice of Windows is probably better for him, even if it's not my choice. So finally, there is no debate. There are good things everywhere, and it's good to look at them and get the best from each one. And yeah, but Rodrigo's question is interesting because when I was nominated AWS Hero, which was really a surprise for me, actually I submitted for the AWS Community Builder, which is a low level, like associate or something like that. And they asked me if I wanted to be a data hero. And so that was really a surprise for me. And I was like, oh, is this compatible with ACE Director or something like that? And actually, it is completely compatible because you can be in a community and you can advocate for a product, and that doesn't mean that you have to use or need this product.
Right.
And probably that's also why I work as a consultant and I'm not working at a vendor. That's where I can have the position to look at everything and don't have to choose the marketing message or something like that.
All right, that's very good, and that's also a good point. That's why you are a consultant and not work directly from the vendor. You have this an opportunity to choose different flavors and different database, and be fine with that, right?
Yeah, and I'm happy that the customer knows that I will not be paid more if I recommend them Oracle or AWS. Huh? For me, it's the same. Huh?
All right,
what makes me happy is what will work at the customer. So.
All right, that's good. And another question here, it's from Leonardo Ciccone. He's asking, what is your mental model to learn new things and keep your knowledge updated? That's a good point.
Yeah,
with so many different databases too. Complement.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's not easy. Certifications.
Good point.
Certifications are really good, and that's not only to get a diploma and a logo and everything, but certifications forces you to learn things, even the things that you don't use every day, or even the things that you don't need for your customers, and that's a good way to learn. And yeah, there are so many things I want to learn. I'm kind of doing a to-do list, and I pick them when I have the occasion to do something. For example, it's like for a long time I wanted to look at Grafana, and now I have a customer is looking at building some graphical view on StatsPack, and then I'm looking finally into Grafana. This thing that I wanted to look for 2 or 3 years, and now I have the occasion because I have something to do with it. So we cannot learn everything, but it's good to keep in mind what kind of thing we want to learn, and then when the occasion comes, it's there. And yeah, there are so many things to learn, and we are lucky that we have so many contents in the community, in content that is public.
Yeah, and all of this because guys like you and so many others that also help with sharing a lot of information. That's very good. Thanks for that, too, right? That's why we have a lot of information there. I have also here a comment from Franck Faust. He's complimenting one talk before, saying, and we have Tim Hall. As long as we have him, we are years ahead of other RDBMS. That's true. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, what Timol does on Oracle base is just incredible. Everything you need to do, you search on Oracle base and you have code to copy paste directly and some
Right.
comments around to understand it. It's incredible the level of documentation that he does. We were mentioning that Oracle documentation is really good, but he puts the practical things on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good point. And still talking about this and documentation and new technologies, we was talking about your beginning of your career, and you said that you read so many manuals and documentation. What version was in that time? What the Oracle
Uh,
database version? Do
it
you
was
remember that?
7.1. Actually, this internship
Hmm.
was on Forms 3, and I think
Hmm.
it was just the new 7.1. So if I remember well, I discovered reading the documentation what are constraints and what is PL/SQL, and it was coming. I don't remember if it was in 7.1 or just after, but Oracle did PL/SQL first to do it in forms, for example. And that was the version where they realized that putting the code near the data is a good idea. And
Right.
we will rediscover that, I think.
Yeah. And also this helping you for the next years too, right?
Yeah, sure. And yeah, and I discovered a lot of things there. I have an anecdote. So I was in an internship, so of course I had no clue about how to install a database, and the guy working there either, because they were just IT responsible for everything. And they tried, at least we tried, but they tried to create a database on the system where a database was already there in production. And
Hmm.
actually, that database was badly installed in the sense of where the Oracle SID was declared in the bash the dot profile. And when they installed it with the same procedure, a new database for the dev, it overridden the Oracle SID. And then the other with the same user, and then the production application didn't work. But nobody had a clue about the problem. So the only thing they did, they restored the whole system. And just after, when we asked to someone knowing Oracle and anything, just after we realized that we restored a whole system just because an environment variable was changed. And this is where you realize, oh, it's good to understand what is behind.
That's a very good point and experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And during all of this time, you were still living in France, or you uh, was in another country?
That was in France.
France.
I'm from south of France, and I did my studies at university. I was in Paris,
Hmm.
but for this internship that was in summer, I was doing it in France. Yeah,
France.
in a place it's called CEA. It's where they do some nuclear research, and the application I did with Form was to manage the
Hmm.
dosimeters. This device that everybody must have to control everything. And the
Yeah.
production one that we have broken for a few hours collected all the information from the dosimeter. It was like
Oh,
IoT
good.
and big data, but at that time smaller data. But
And maybe you are having some fun back with math and physics work with that, right? I
yeah, but
can.
not that much. Yeah, there was enough to learn on Oracle and IT in general, and
Hmm.
yeah.
So we have a guy here that worked in one of the most technology developers on the last years, guys. And I have a question talking about this from Tercio Costa. He's asking, what was your big challenge or was in CERN about our environment?
At CERN, oh yeah, the big challenge was um, I usually like to work in small companies. The company where I'm working, DBA services, we are 80. And it's not only that it's small and you know everybody, but it's also that everything is fast. If you have an idea, you can discuss with the management and they can decide quickly. And CERN is quite the opposite. It's a big company and international and government and everything. So for me, the big challenge was trying to move with a big inertia around. And that's also one reason I didn't stay and I went back to consulting. I mean, the environment was really interesting. First, working, the users are looking at the universe and the was the Big Bang and anything. So it's nice users, of course, and they have the big database and everything. But finally, I'm really in the mood of a consultant, and I prefer to help someone on standard edition. And at the end of the day, I'm happy with what I've did, and I helped him, and he's happy, and I'm finally more happy with that than working on a petabyte database and just discovering that it's petabyte just because nothing is purged and nothing is cleaned up and everything. So because there is just too much data. So the big challenge was that, and actually. What was really great, I went to work to CERN with Ludovico Caldara, and we had a lot of fun working together and also discovering all this inertia.
Oh, that's very nice. I can imagine that it was really a very good experience and lots of big challenges there. So, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, also very, very interesting to try to understand 1% of what they do, huh? Because it's crazy. They just accelerate protons to get collisions that mimics the Big Bang, and that's crazy. And they do that 100 meter underground.
And maybe kill everyone with a black hole and make everything explode, right? Someone told something like this that could happen, maybe.
Yeah, they told me that it cannot happen. They have antimatter, but too small to do any harm. But
Oh, yeah. Thanks God that. Okay. We have here another question from Eric Nagamini. He's asking, how would you split your day to do everything you need to study? Sometimes there is a lot of concepts to study and the time is short. So
yes,
yeah.
that's right. So I'm also happy to work at DBA Services because it's a company where the management they are all they were all consultants before being managers, and they know that you cannot sell expertise and do not do any research and learning to be up to date. So we have days working internally, doing research on new version, new features, or maybe new databases that we want to look, or maybe problems that we don't have at customers yet, but we know that will happen, and then we look that before. So we have time, and we are not all days at customers or working for customers, and that's very important. And the second thing is also try to leverage what you have to do for a customer, try to learn at the same time. I mean, even if you take a bit more time on this, it will help. And finally, the customers are also winners on that, because on some topic you spend more time, but because you spend more time also on another topic at another customer, then you are faster on it for them. And finally, globally, there are some topics where you dig a bit deeper, and some other where you already did that before, and then you can do it. And then finally, everyone is a winner. But it's really hard. There are so many things and so many stacks and so many components and technical components. It's crazy. Huh? I mean, when I started Oracle, everything was on Oracle. So you had new things to learn, because one day you have to work with lobes and you never did, or one day you have to work with Orman and you never did. But it's still in Oracle where you know where to find information. And today you have to learn so many things. For example, I was mentioning that these days I was looking at putting Grafana on StatsPack data. And first, I tried to look because I installed the PMM. I tried to look how to export this data in Prometheus and then query Prometheus because that's the way it's done everywhere. And then I realized, but why would I try to learn this Prometheus query language? I can also put the data in a Postgres database and query with SQL and things that I know. And there are so many components. And today, many young architects, I mean, young in technology, try to put more components and each time a new component to solve the solution before looking at what you already have and what you can do with what you already have. So the answer may be try to limit also and not go in all direction in your learning because you
That's
cannot go deep in every direction. Huh?
Yeah, I like it, this last part that you mentioned. So maybe the new architects maybe could choose try to solve things with what we have instead of try to create new things. One point, and the other one, that's true. We cannot be so deep in everything. Yeah, that's very interesting. Right. And with all of this stuff that you mentioned and a lot of things, you also doing a lot of conferences, you do some YouTube, you have a channel on YouTube, you do some videos sharing a lot of information. You also read a book. You also are an Oracle ACE director. You are an OCM 11G and 12C. You are really an hero, or maybe a AWS hero. It might could be also Oracle hero too, with a lot of these titles, right?
Yeah, on one side, I understand that it's a lot of things, but
Hmm.
when you look at what, for example, what Donald Potter did for years and everything, or we were talking about Timor and everything, and finally you realize that there are some people doing lot more as well. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that I do a lot of things, but they are all related. It was the same as when I said, do not go in every direction.
Mm-hmm.
If there is something you want to learn, for example, sometimes I submit at a conference an abstract just because I know that I want to learn something on that. And then it forces me to learn it, like certification and everything. I
Good
have
point.
colleagues who told me, no, I cannot submit because I don't have yet the subject and everything and nearly all the slides and everything. And I told them, no, I submit something when I have only the title and then I know I want to investigate on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that forces you to learn, but learn something that you want to learn. I mean, I do nothing forced.
Hmm.
Sometimes at customers, you have to do something that it's not really what you want to do, but for your research, this must be fun. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Right, right. This, how can I say that? This, it's a very good advice, right? Pick a topic and then you will must study and learn a little bit more deep about this specific
Yeah.
topic, right?
And
Yeah.
I've seen some presentation from people also talking about having fun in enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
Managers should understand that their people should have fun in what they do. And when you have fun, you are 10 times more efficient in learning
Yeah.
and doing things and sharing. And
It's easier to do things when you like it, right? Yeah,
yeah, sure.
that's good point. Yeah, as Rodrigo Muflon said, it keeps you motivated. That's totally true. Yeah, and the other things we will talk a little bit more soon, but now I will ask the question from Rafael Vieira. He's asking, Frank, in which area of the Oracle database, performance and tuning, backup and recovery, high availability, etc., do you consider yourself strongest, and which area do you consider weakest?
Good question. The part I like the most is performance. And not only for the technology, but also because I like to solve problem and help people and discuss with people, and I really like to discuss with devs and ops and everything. For me, the best consulting day is when I am on a performance issue and I can help people to talk together between dev and operations, because it's not always the case in all companies. And as a consultant, is easier because you come without the context of politics in the company, of being from different departments and maybe fight between managers and everything. So as a consultant, you really come neutral on this, and then you can talk to everybody. So this is why I really like performance, and also because I learned performance tuning on Oracle by the scientific approach that I've learned by reading Tom Kite, Jonathan Levis, Daniel Poder, Fritz Reuland, and like for every problem, do not look at a dumb number like a buffer cache hit ratio and anything. For any problem, you can measure, and in Oracle you have a lot of metrics. You can measure and understand and reproduce and everything. So I really like this method. And Rafael is asking the weakest area. Actually, there are plenty of them, but I think on Oracle, I know where to find information. So the weakest are the things that I don't do every day. For example, RAC, I have finally not a lot of customers in RAC because you see less and less clusters. And this is, even if I know it, and I've been working on RAC, and for example at CERN, everything was on cluster. But for tricky things like when you have to look at the logs in the database, I know where I can look at the logs. In grid infrastructure, for me, there are logs everywhere. And then it's like wasting a lot of time. And I remember, for example, at CERN, for an issue, I just asked Ludovico, because Ludovico knows by heart all processes in grid infrastructure, and he knows where to look at. So that's probably my weakest point. That doesn't mean that I cannot help in solving a problem, but it's not an area where I'm comfortable with everything.
And it's normal,
and
right?
Golden Gate as well. You do a lot of Golden Gate, and I did a few years ago, but when you do not do things every day or at least every week or month, then you forget.
That's true. You need to keep practicing to be good. And if you need some help with Golden Gate, I know a friend that might can help you.
Sure.
Just let me know and I will introduce you to him. It's fine. All right. We have more questions here, and the next one, and Frank, it's from Leonardo Scone. He's asking, one may consider DBAs as the original DevOps because we are really at the middle in connecting developers with operations. Do you agree with this statement?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I will tell you the first time I installed the database myself. So I mentioned that during the internship, I didn't, and we kind of failed because nobody knew about it. And my first job was for a customer in a big company. It was Alcatel, but not in the IT department. You know those companies where you have an IT department and you have a rebel area in another department where you have 2 or 3 people in the IT managing the local PCs and everything.
They forgot the word. It's called the IT team.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right?
and this small IT team, the responsible, and I learned a lot with him, wanted to build an application to help in the accounting, and instead of asking to the IT department for something that would take month and month and month, he wanted to do something more agile, even if it was not the term at that time. And we started with Paradox, and then Borland came with Delphi. You know, the Turbo Pascal with the nice GUI, and I started to develop with the Delphi in the beta version.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started to develop something, a client server with Delphi and an Oracle database, because this company was full IBM. The IT department was full IBM. And then this guy wanted to do something differently. He asked to Oracle to get the software for free to try, and they asked CERN for a server. And of course, those companies wanted to do something in this company that was full IBM. And then this is where I got to unbox the Sun server and install Oracle on it and do everything. And I'm mentioning that because Leonardo is talking about DevOps, and that was exactly DevOps, except that it started with hardware at that time, and
Right.
today you can just start a VM to do the same thing, but it's really the same idea. Do not ask to the big IT department, just install your database and start your development. And so yes, and this position of the DBA, I think can help in the communication between dev and ops. Actually, at the beginning, the first time I heard about DevOps, I was really enthusiastic about it, because for me it was like, oh, finally people understand that we need to talk between dev and ops. And then I
Right.
realized that for a lot of people, DevOps was more doing dev without having to talk to the ops, which may
Very
not
good.
be good, because for the development phase, it works and it's very agile. But one day you need to put it in production and have operations on it and backups and everything. And maybe some DevOps idea are missing this point. But if it is just sitting together between dev and ops, and also actually just after this project, I've been working on data warehouses, which were called Info Center at that time. It was the beginning where with Business Object, I think it was Business Object version 3, which was really revolutionary at that time, giving a tool to the user where graphically they can build their query. And I really enjoyed those projects because this started more agile, just sitting with the developer, the application owner, and the user directly. And then you see the user who used to have files, Excel, everything, and then you give him an interface where he can do everything easier. And that's really nice, because you have communication and people really help each other, which helps to communicate.
Right, good. And in that time, you was already a sysadmin, sysdevop, DBA, and developer, everything together, and also the guy who installed the physical server.
Yeah, I would not call that DBA because I had no clue about what I installed.
It's just to
But
follow
I
some step
discovered
by step.
I discovered everything. Like I mean, that's something important. Even if today you can provision an autonomous database, it's important to install things. And I like to learn by installing things. For example, when you install a server, there is a point where you have the question, what is the IP address, what is the subnet mask, and everything. And when you know nothing on network, it forces you to try to understand that. And installing, I think it's really important to install to learn. Then, if you have to create a lot of databases, it's good to have automation and not install with click, click, click each time. But learning by installing, for example, running through the Oracle installer helps to ask a lot of questions like, what's the size for the recovery area? And then you have to think about what is the recovery area, what I will put there. Will I put the backups or not? And then you have many questions.
That's very good. Right. I just received a picture here, and I also was up to send a message, send a question from look on that here in Golden Talks, and OCM 12G at 12C, asking to another OCM. Only on GoldenTalks you can see this, right?
Yeah.
Just make some joke. But before I do this question, I just received a picture here. I will try to show you guys because I was informed that 4 guys that is in this picture here, it's in this live at this moment. So take a look if you can see these guys here. Oops.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Where was that? Was that in Sopot?
Can you see that? Yeah. So guys, if you are in this picture, let us know where was this pic taken, because I don't know.
I think that was in Sopot.
Support. All right. All right. So
POG.
only our amazing guys.
It was POG for sure.
POG. Good.
POG
19.
19, yeah.
All right. So guys, thank you for being watching here, and I'm very happy. All guys.
Workload, not support, yeah.
Well,
19.
That's
Yeah.
good. So I'm very happy to have all of these big fishes here on GoldenTalks. And
Yeah,
now,
we really miss physical conferences to meet. Yeah.
That's true. The physical conference, it's have another energy with people and a lot of good guys to talk face to face, right? That's true.
Yeah, and Alex is asking how about the pandemic in Switzerland? Yeah, it's like everywhere. We work remotely, and the government sometimes try to give more freedom, and then they realize that they have to ask people to be in lockdown. So yeah, very difficult to plan things. But I can mention that I discovered many things. Like before, I didn't think that I would like to work from home every day, because I like to go at customers, I like to move, and for example, if a weekend it's a rainy day and I don't go outside, I'm not happy because I need to go outside. And finally, I realized that I can work from home and of course go outside. It was better in spring, but because now it's cold. But I realized that I can work like that, and I also realized that communication with customer is still possible and good through Zoom or something else. And I have even some customers where the communication is better, because when I go to their office, everyone has his job, and even if you have a small question, you don't want to disturb him, or maybe you don't want to sit near me to look at what I'm doing, which can be useful to learn. But when we share with TeamViewer, when we share the same screen, and I work and people can look at it or not, ask a question or not. And if you have a question, you can just send a chat and saying, oh, I have a question, and then it comes. And finally, with some people, it's easier even to communicate. And I've been working together on TeamViewer, shared everybody from home, working more together than when sitting at the same office. Because that's also something I like in consulting. I like doing things and explaining at the same time, for example, how I handle a performance issue or something like that. And it's also interesting for them to learn how I do that usually. But the customer will not take his chair and sit and just look at what you do. Some will do it and some will not do it. But if we share the screen, then we work together on the same screen, and that's also nice. So it has some good things. What I really miss is conferences and meeting people physically, because we talk differently and we have beers and
yeah. That's true. I'm agree with you too. Yeah, we are also missing here, and we have also here a comment from I think it's Pete. I'm sorry about that, but the pronunciation is not so easy for me. It's Pete de Visser, I think.
Pete de Visser, yeah.
Pete de Visser. All right. Thanks for that. And he's saying, but this chat is closed. We miss the conversation, the exchange of idiotic messages, info, and serendipity, I think. All right.
Yeah, and with Pete, we always realize that we don't have enough time to talk, because at conferences, during dinner, everything, there are so many topics we want to discuss, because We are those old DBAs who know that it's good to put code in the database and everything. And we also see the devs and the architects who want to do everything serverless and in Lambdas and everywhere. And it's good to talk together to understand them better and know how we can explain our point of view and understand their point of view. And yeah, those conversations are easier when we sit at the same table with a beer or anything.
Yeah, yeah. A beer, it's a good point. I also miss drink some beer with friends.
Yeah.
Right, that's good.
That's what is good with POEG. You know that POEG, the P is not for Poland. It's
Mm-hmm.
pinned with Oracle user group.
Right, yeah. And talking about conferences, I know that you did a lot of conferences around the world, right? And you also lived in other countries than France and Switzerland. And
Yeah.
so, are you a guy that like travel? Because I think you like travel, right?
Yeah,
Tell me about
actually,
this.
after this experience where I installed a server and
Mm.
then working on data warehouses, I changed company and I really wanted a company where I can travel for the job. Because it's easier. I like to travel for as a hobby, but traveling for the job, you live in the country. It's not like you visit it. And I really changed the company to a company who did banking software, and they sold it in many banks in Africa, in French-speaking part of Africa. And then I've been working there in Senegal, Dakar, which was really great for everything, for the place, for the people, and everything. And this is where I started to be a DBA because I was installing the software and then having to troubleshoot the performance or other issues. And they had no DBA, so really looking at everything on Oracle. And uh, and then I've been working. When I went back, I didn't want to go back to Paris because Paris is too big. It's a nice city when you are a student. It's perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but after it's kind of too big. And I've been in Brussels because a company were hiring there, and I spent a few years in Brussels, and this is where I've met my wife, for example, and many friends. But I also traveled because, Belgium is awesome, except one thing, the
Hmm.
weather.
Ah, the weather. All right.
And then staying in Brussels for me was okay if I were able to travel during winter and go elsewhere. And this is where I've
Right.
been working 6 months in Madrid, for example. And
Right.
yeah,
So.
so I really like to travel, and it's really interesting to meet different people and different culture, and it's not only about culture and countries, but there are a lot of people trying to bring more diversity in conferences, more women, more people with different backgrounds, more younger people, because in Oracle conferences, people are not so young, and that's really good because everything you learn it from the differences,
Mhm.
different point of views. This is what helps you.
Right. And if you like some good conference and a good weather too, you should come to Brazil. Think of that.
Yeah. I was very near to come when I was at CERN, and I was going to do the LATAM tour.
Mm,
So
good.
Uruguay, Paraguay, and Brazil, and
Oh, good.
that
Latin
that
American.
that was
Right.
the bad thing with CERN being a big company and anything. And Oracle, they have those compliance rules where they cannot pay people. And even, that in the ACE program, even when they send us a T-shirt, they have to fill a lot of forms with legal just to be sure that it's not conflict of interest or anything. So for travels, it's the same, and that was supposed to be paid by the ACE program. But they wanted just a letter to be signed, like there is no conflict of interest. But when you are in a small company, you just ask your manager and he signs. And when you are at a big company like CERN that is international and everything, nobody takes the responsibility to sign anything.
Yeah, this
And
is
finally,
true.
I
Yeah.
had to cancel because of that. But I hope I will do that one day. Yeah,
All right, I hope soon. And we can drink some beer too here, Brazil.
yeah, yeah.
We have some good beers too here.
And
Uh,
caipirinha as well. Huh?
Caipirinha, yeah, of course, it's the best one.
Yeah.
And for you guys that never came to Brazil, also think of that. Came to Brazil and don't leave here without drinking a very good caipirinha, right?
Sure.
Good. And I have a message here from Pete, and he's saying that how is the right pronunciation? Maybe it's Pete. Thanks for that. And he's saying
Yeah.
I only go to conference for the food and drinks. That's good.
Yeah, that's a pity mantra, but
Yeah.
we know that he do conferences just to ride his motorbike and meet people. But
Yeah. And
food and drinking is a good.
yeah, I think it's one of the best things to go to another country. Is not only culture, but also see how is the different food and drinks that we have there, right?
Yeah,
Good. It's very nice.
we
And
will not mention UKUG there.
really? Okay, okay. uh, this true. I will just do some risk and okay, I will not look for food and drinks there. Okay, and the next question is from Frank. He say, when did you realize it was the time to learn another DB flavor?
Good question. Because I've been working most of the time with Oracle. The data warehouse I started, I mentioned, was on DB2, the first version of DB2 on Linux, which was really buggy because only Oracle is portable and on all platforms. IBM for DB2, they rewrote it for Unix. And at the beginning, it was kind of difficult. But then I did mostly Oracle. I had a small experience with Informix when I was working in Gabon, in Africa, for a telecom operator. I was working on the Oracle database, but the telecom prepaid system had an Informix database which crashed, and it crashed every day. And this is again where nobody knew that, and the support did nothing. And this is again where I took the book and read it. Well, I think it was a PDF at that time, but I've read the documentation from beginning to the end. And then when I understood the concepts about the equivalent of the redo log, I checked them and I realized that they were not the same size. And in Oracle, if you don't have the same size for redo logs, it works. It's not perfect for performance point of view, but it works. And with Informix, it was just hanging, and they had to restart the database, and then it hangs 2 hours later. And again, understand, take the time to understand with the documentation, and then you may have some idea about what works. But then I was working mostly with Oracle, and I'm looking a lot of Postgres because, I mean, open source has many interesting things. First, the community, because it's people contribute on it, and it's very interesting to be able to look at the source. I mean, Oracle, we know, we have some ideas about how it works because there is the documentation, but also because some people like Donald Potter, Jonathan Levis, Fritz Sutland has really reversed engineer everything. And also because we have tools to understand how it works on Linux and something like that. But with open source, you can look at the source. And it's, for example, for Postgres, I have not looked at the C code a lot, but the comments that you have in the source answers a lot about why this function has been designed like this and what are the limitations and everything. Of course, there is the documentation, but the comments about it are quite interesting. And but there is something that you don't have with open source. You don't have the equivalent of the most nodes, the metallic nodes. And this is probably where I go to the source code and see the comments, because if you want to understand an issue by reading only the mailing list, then you can spend your day reading questions and answers and answers and answers and everything. That's different from Oracle that has commercial support, who after a bug is solved or worked around, someone at the support will write a short summary with what is the cause, what is the symptom, what is the workaround, what is the
Summarize
fix.
everything, right?
And I've not found that in open source. So you have different ways to get information, but the source code is interesting. And I like Oracle for its complexity, because it's crazy what you have there, but I like Postgres for the simplicity. I mean, you download the source. I did it today to install a database to connect Grafana to Oracle. Just using the foreign data wrapper. And I downloaded, I think, 20 megabytes of source. I compiled it in 10 minutes, and then I had my database on a small machine.
Is it really true, this size?
And it's a real database. Of course, you don't have all the things that you have on Oracle, but it's a real database. If you compare that with the Oracle Home and with the size of the Oracle Database Dictionary, that has 40 years of features accumulated in it. So that's interesting.
Good.
In the other that are mentioned by Frankie, MySQL, I don't know that a lot. DynamoDB, I'm really interested by DynamoDB, because I still don't really understand the point with NoSQL. But DynamoDB has good reasons. I mean, I can really understand why developers start something with DynamoDB if they understand it. For the simplicity of the API, and they say because SQL database don't scale, but just because they don't know that they can scale, and also people who went to NoSQL from MySQL, for example, when partitioning was not there and everything. DynamoDB has partitioning that is automatic, and you can scale the same with Oracle, but you still have to create your partitions. You have to design something. With DynamoDB, you just put data and it's partitioned in behind. And of course, Oracle will do the same with Autonomous. But that's interesting, and it's also interesting to discuss with people. And in both ways, I'm happy to learn why developers like the DynamoDB API, but developers also like to see that SQL is not so complex. You can do complex things, but it's not so complex. And that finally, being ACID and doing joins may scale as well if you have the good indexes on that. So the discussions around, I mean, I'm not a developer, and I think I will never use DynamoDB to develop something, and maybe probably not even to do some tuning, because there is not a lot to do if you understand how to design, maybe for the modeling. But the discussions that are around when a developer has some needs and look at some solutions, that's interesting.
Good. And I still talk about open source and Oracle. We have a question here, some messages before from Marcelo Naza, and I also want to send him a cheers. He's living in Portugal, so we have many guys here on GoldenTalks today for different countries, and he's asking, Frank, can you talk about the advantages that exist in Postgre compared to Oracle database in critical environments?
The advantages that are in, I don't see the question. Can you repeat?
Marcelo, he's asking, can you talk about the advantages that exist in Postgre SQL compared to Oracle database in critical environments. It's
Yeah,
some message before the PO G19. Take a
yeah, I
look, some
don't
message
see the
before it.
message, and I'm not sure I didn't really. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's from Marcelo
Uh,
Nasa. Yeah.
yeah, in critical environment, the advantage that
Yes.
exists in Postgres. Uh, there are two big advantages in Postgres. First, the simplicity. If you want a database that runs on a small Docker container and that you install quickly and anything, of course, it's easier. And of course, the price, because you don't pay for licenses. This doesn't mean that it has no cost in enterprise, but of course, the price. And if you need more CPU, you are not like, oh, more CPU, I have to buy licenses. And
Usually it's
so,
like that.
so those are the big advantages for me. The simplicity is really an advantage. But for critical environments, if you have Oracle, I mean, if you have it and you don't have to pay more, and you have it and you have everything to install it quickly or get it installed via Ansible or anything, and then provisioning is not a problem, then I don't see really a reason why you should develop on Postgres rather than on the Oracle that you have. Um, about performance, as I mentioned at the beginning, you can, if you know a product, you can do good things with it. So it's not a problem. But Oracle, more than performance, it has predictability of performance. When you run something on Oracle that is homogeneous, like a benchmark or something like that, and you look at the graph in top activity or anything, you will say it's flat. Because if you run something that is homogeneous, the resource consumption is also homogeneous. If you do that on Postgres and MySQL, you will see that it changes, because then there is a checkpoint, and then there is a vacuum, and then something that was in cache is not in cache, and that can be a problem in critical environments, because finally what people want is not that it's fast or not. They want to know how long it takes. And if you have a use case that takes 5 minutes, the user can be okay with that. They know they will run it and grab a coffee and come back. But if there is something that usually takes 1 second and sometimes takes 1 minute, then it is a problem for them. I went a few years ago at a customer for a performance issue. It was a bank, and they had a use case where a query took 1 minute. And this use case was when they were on the phone with the customer, a private banking, and so important customers. And then the perception of the performance is completely different. When you have someone on the phone and you have to talk 1 minute because you don't know when the screen will be back, then that's long, the predictability. If they know in before that it's long, they can plan to do it differently, maybe run it and do something else with the customer and come back. So predictability of performance. So about advantages, for me, the advantages of Postgres is the price and the simplicity. But people must be careful. It's not because it's free that it has no cost. You need to do a lot more by yourself. Oracle is complex. The Oracle software takes a lot of place, but this complexity also, we have an optimizer that can cope with very bad application design and row by row and no bind variables and anything. With Postgres, if the issue is bad application design, the Postgres community will not bring more complexity in the query planner for this application. They will just say, no, the problem is in your application, fix that. When you have a commercial database, and if AT&T is telling Oracle, performance is bad, they will put the complexity in the code because that's a big customer that pays for it. So that's a big difference, and the big advantage, simplicity.
That's true. Good point. And now going a little forward with the messages, I have a message from Rodrigo Jorge saying a tip for you, Frank, and that's it. Don't forget to visit Rio once you came to Brazil. So take some notes about that.
Sure, sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing is from Erika Nagamini. She's saying, do you mention that you study big data in Switzerland? Customers want to change everything to a data lake too. Sometimes we have to explain people that it's not necessary change everything.
For the moment, I don't have real experience on data lakes.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people who think they do data lakes, which is something what I call a data warehouse. I still don't know what people mean by data lake, and it really looks like those old data warehouses where the idea was to put all the data and then see what we can do with it later.
And put on cloud, like a
And put
cloud
that on cloud. Yeah.
with a beautiful name.
Cloud has the object storage that is really something new. In the cloud, you have everything that you have on premises, but the idea of object storage is kind of different. It's not a database, but you can query it. You have a lot of tools to query it.
True.
It's not a file server. It's different. And yeah, today the things that looks more like a data lake can be putting a lot of data in S3 and so in AWS. And query it with some tools or import it elsewhere. You can do that also on the autonomous database. It's quite new, but you can put files on the object store and query it from the autonomous database. And there are some really funny things in the execution plan as well. But yeah, I mean, that's also my point about CERN. At CERN, they have big databases. Like one database was 1 petabyte. But I'm not proud of having a big database if it's only because there are a lot of logs that are not purged, not compressed, and anything. So if a data lake is just to put all data and say, yeah, we have a big data lake. I mean, data lake is not the name of a use case or a business requirement.
Right. Yeah. All right. She's still saying, yes, the same here in Brazil. Sometimes people needs a DW, not a data lake. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
and we still see people doing old data warehouse with row by row inserts from Informatica. So yeah, you can talk about data lake, but first do a good data warehouse with good data marts, and it will solve a lot of business problems.
Yeah. All right. And I was looking here, and Frankie, we already passed 1 hour, more than 1 hour in our talk.
This goes so fast.
Yeah, that's true. This happens all the time. We always think, oh, 1 hour it's too much, but suddenly 1 hour, it's gone. And I have some topics that I wanted to talk with you, and it was related to your blog that you have. So you can tell a little bit more how you started and how was your blog, it's active or not, and what are you posting on that. And the next thing is about the book that you written many chapters. So tell us these two things.
So about the blog, I know how hard it is to start blogging when you want to start blogging. You know, this idea, like, I want also to contribute and to write, but everything has already been written by many experts. And how I started blogging, I was active only in forums, DBA Village, where some people know it's still there, and it's managed by a company in Belgium. So I was active in some forums, and then I got this idea that rather than always answering the same thing sometimes on the same question, maybe I can write something, but without knowing where to start. And at that time, I was reading a lot Jonathan Lewis, Tom Kite. I was really reading as Tom every day. Huh? Like we said for the book, I was reading and learning not only
Right.
features and things and answers to questions, but the way to troubleshoot something. Like being clear in the question, really knowing what is the problem, reproducing it, tracing exactly. And I was like, oh, I should start blogging, but I never know. And then I've seen a blog post from Jonathan Lewis where he mentioned that someone in China asked him the permission to translate a few blog posts of him. And Jonathan is really nice and sharing. And so he mentioned that with the links and everything to it. And then I came with this idea, okay, I don't know what to write about, but I read a lot Jonathan Lewis. And I know that in my native language, French, there are a lot of people who do not read that because the English is too complex for that. And why not just translate a few of his blog posts? And this is how I started. I asked Jonathan Lewis the permission to do that. And he did the same, linking it to it. So I translated the kind of blog post that he did on concepts, like what is undo, what is a consistent read. And then I did that for others, for Tom Kite. For example, the update restart in white consistency, Tom Kite did well, a lot on Astom on it, and then a few blog posts. And I translated that. And this is how I started, with some added value, because I was putting in French something that I've read and I've spent time to understand and explain it in French for people where it's easier to read it in French. And then came some ideas like, oh, I want to say more than that, more than translating, or maybe I want to phrase it differently. Of course, not better than Tom Kite or Jonathan Lewis, but differently, because you can say things differently. And this is how I started, first in French, but with my own post. And then when I went to DBA services, they had a blog, and then I started to blog a lot on that. And finally, I realized that by blogging, in addition to sharing with people, it was the first time I was able to document things for myself. I know a lot of people who write some notes somewhere. They have a HTML file or today markup, and they have scripts and everything. And I was never able to do that because, I put things in different places, and it's like to-do list. You start a to-do list, and then it's too big, and you start another to-do list somewhere else, and you have everything everywhere.
Right.
And finally, blogging was for me the way to document something. And this is what I do today. If
Very
I'm
clever.
testing something,
Right.
just because I want to learn about this feature, or because I reproduce a problem I've seen as a customer, if I test it, I just copy paste in a blog post, and usually in draft. And then if something makes sense, just putting some comments around it forces me to think more about it. And something that I would have stopped just testing, okay, I have my answer. When I start to write about it, I have to go deeper, because I start to explain, and then I realize, oh, but maybe I didn't check that and that and that. And then it's written, and I can get back, and I do that a lot. I know that I've tested some feature, and then I search on Google for a blog of mine about it. And for me, it's easier to read a blog of mine because it's my style. And that's also the idea about blogging. You can blog about the same thing. Different people can blog about the same thing because they have their own style. And some people will prefer to read one, and some other to read another one. Some people will like a lot of screenshots. Some people will like a lot of code. So yeah, there is
And
But for everything, yeah.
good. And with all of this information, details, and Google searching, did you anytime you searched something and find out that you had in your blog?
Yes, yes. And even it happened to me to search something
Hmm.
which was like it's new that I'm searching for that, and I found two blog posts, nearly the same, nearly the
Oh,
same. I don't remember what it was. I tested something on the Redo logs, and it was funny because nearly the same, but a bit different.
yeah. All right. Good. Good. And another thing that I'd like to talk shortly, it's about the book that you
Yeah, you
written.
mentioned the book, so
Yeah.
you know that
Oh,
I have it,
yes. Oh, that's
and
very good one.
I have also
One
a
database.
version in
In
China.
China. Oh.
So I know how to write my name in Chinese.
Are you able to read in Chinese? True.
No,
No.
no, no.
No.
But it was fun because when Oracle Press has translated it, they have sent that.
Mm-hmm, good.
This was a really nice experience. I don't think I will do it again just because it takes a lot of time.
Hmm.
But it was
Yep.
a good experience first because it was shared. It was an idea that came at DOAG. You know, physical conferences, you discuss and with a beer. And I was discussing with people from DB Visits, Vitspinka and Ton else. And
Mm-hmm.
we got this idea exactly at the time where multi-tenant was there from 12.1 and the 12.2 was just out in beta. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the perfect time. Multi-tenant, new subjects, not yet a lot of people written things on that, and in beta, new features to test. So that was really nice. The really good experience was how the three of us, without knowing each other, I mean, you know people at conferences, but you never worked together, how it was easy to set up just the topics. And then we were like, oh, I would like to do that, and Vit wanted to do that. And everything was split perfect. And with small communication, we were all in phase, and that was really
Mm-hmm.
nice. We also had Mike Donovan who did the English review because when
Mm-hmm.
our English is quite limited, so he helped with that. We had also Debbie Gomez who did the technical review,
Mm,
and
good.
Oracle Press also had Arup Nanda as technical reviewer. So really, really nice also to have something that is reviewed by Arup.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. The big surprise was that the time we spent to write this was not so long. I mean, of course, we tested everything, but we wanted to test anyway in beta all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then you write the things, and the English was not bad because Mike Donovan did huge work putting our bad English in real English. But then you have the Oracle Press editor that changes the sentences, not
Oh
because
my
it's
god.
bad English, but because of the style. And then you
All right.
review it, and there are so many sentences where you are like, but this has a different meaning.
So they changed some things to have a more polite or something like this
Yeah, and
English.
then
Yeah.
we were spend a lot of time putting back the meaning, but with this style, and that was not expected, but
Okay.
it was really fun to do. Yeah,
Yeah. Good. Good.
and it's still funny. I think years ago or decades ago, people were writing technical books got a lot of money from that, but that's finished today. Huh? It's always funny. I receive 10 pieces of papers telling me that they will transfer $2 on my account.
All
So
right.
if you want to write a book, don't do it for money, but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, all right, good. And all of these works that you have done with blog and book and so on, did all of this helped you be an Oracle Ace director and OCM, or have these titles helped you write the book, for instance?
Of course, it helps because the more you do in the community and you share, the more you do. But I think I don't remember if I was already ex-director when I've written that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it helps, but don't do things for that. And that's also what I say to Oracle people who complain about points and everything. Do not do things
Mm-hmm.
about points. Yes, if you write about cloud, you have twice the number of points, but do not write about cloud for that. And you can be an Oracle ace without even mentioning the cloud. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So just do the things that you want to do, and then if you have some recognition. And for example, AWS Hero, for me it was a surprise. It was not a goal, and it was a really nice surprise. But you do things that you like, and people appreciate, and then you have that. But that's really the message. Don't do it for that.
Mm-hmm.
OCM is also something that you do for yourself. Of course, it helps your company to keep expertise rates and anything. If they have a lot of people certified, it helps with the partnership. But it's a lot of work to prepare the OCM or any certification. I see that Alex is there. Just ask him.
Good
And
point.
but do it because you like it. I mean, the preparation of the OCM, what is very stressful is that you never know if you are prepared or not.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things like you do it, and there is a point where, like writing the book, for example, you write it, and there is a point where you know that the chapter is okay. You have nothing more to put, and you have nothing to change. For the OCM, there is never a point where you say, okay, I'm ready for it, because you never know what will happen. So that's difficult. But the work you do, the labs you do to prepare are interesting. And at the beginning, we were mentioning Oracle documentation. One very important thing about OCM, you have access to the documentation, but not the search engine. So exactly the same as when you have the book. If you know where to look at, you can go very fast to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, you don't. And at the OCM exam, nothing is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is about documented things. It's really completely different from what you do at customers, where you solve problems that should not happen, but happen. At OCM, everything works normally. There are no bugs and everything. The problem is just the time. When you go at a
Right.
customer, you take a few days to set up a data guard and test it and everything. And at the OCM, you have 2 hours to do that. So you do it differently. It's a lab, and you don't care about testing it and everything. But it's really different. But do it because you like it, and the exam, the first OCM, the 11G, for me was a really good experience because everything went okay, and then you enjoy.
All right.
When I did the 12C upgrade, it was quite different. I had some problems, things that were very long, and then looking at the documentation. And I mentioned at the beginning that cluster is not the thing I like. And yeah, that was at the end of the exam. And yeah, but the experience may be different. And because of the time, you have a lot of stress, but it's interesting also to know how you do. But being an OCM doesn't mean that you are better at customer.
Mm-hmm.
You solve completely different problem. It just means that you like Oracle, that you like to learn, and like yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, good points. But thanks for that. Thanks for all of your achievements, because it's very nice to have uh, a person like you that have not only one but two OCM in different Oracle versions. Very good. Congratulations for that. Okay.
Thanks.
And talk about the study and certifications. We have a question here from Rodrigo Martins, and he's asking, "Hi Frank, what tools do you see for? I'm sorry, what tools do you use for study, blog, YouTube, Twitter, etc."
Yeah. So I'm not a video guy. For me, I know a lot of people learning with videos from YouTube, but I never find the good rate.
Mm-hmm.
When I follow a training in video, it starts to slow, and then I put the speed at 2 times the speed, where people are, and then I realize that I missed
Okay.
everything, and I come back. So finally, there is no gain in time.
All
So
right.
yeah, I really prefer to read because I read at my own pace, and I have to practice.
Mm-hmm.
To learn something, I have to practice. Like if I read something, and that's also my style of blogging. I put everything, the code that you can copy paste, and this is where I learn thing really, installing things and practicing. And of course, conferences, but maybe not sessions. In session, you get some ideas, but talking with people, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And the tools, the good thing today is that you can install everything. I mean, it can be on a laptop, on VirtualBox, on a cloud. You can install everything. That's so different from when I was beginning in IT. There was no possibility to install a lab database for yourself. Today, you can install it and break it and trace it and do whatever you want to do with that. So
All right, good thing. And talking about on YouTube, I you said that you're not a video guy, but I have a presentation that you did recently that I mentioned to you, and I would like to share with you that it's from Oracle Word because it's very interesting. And if you type on YouTube, you're gonna find, and this is the title, 19 features you will miss if you leave your Oracle database. It's very nice. There are, I think, at least two different videos in different places, but the same
yeah,
presentation, and it's very nice. And if you wanna do some short comment about this, feel free, because it's a very
yeah.
nice video.
I got the idea. It was exactly like the idea when I submit something for a conference. I just have an idea. I want to do that, and just because I want to investigate on it. And the idea was first because a lot of people were talking about Postgres, open source, and anything. And I was like, yes, it's good, but maybe we forgot also some features that are there in Oracle, but for years and years and years. For example, recently, Hash join came to MySQL. And of course, everybody is happy because it solves a lot of problems with large data and reporting. But we have that in Oracle for years and years and years, and nobody at Oracle will suddenly put a message on all social media like, we have hash joins. Yeah, we know. So it was this idea, and yeah, this was really interesting also because I realized that at conferences we are talking too much about new features or complex things because we like to do research and to talk about it. But we must keep in mind that at conferences, we have users who do not spend all their life and their day on Oracle. They do a lot of things and they want just the basic things on Oracle. And there are also some juniors. And I'm sure that starting today with Oracle is not easy. And if the first conferences you go to sessions about RAC, you will be completely lost. So it's good to start slowly with some features and some concepts. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, these sessions all had also the advantage that all product managers like it and come to your session first because they want to see if you talk about their product in those 19 features. And I also did this session. Some people at Oracle asked me to do it to Oracle sales engineers
Mm-hmm.
because in marketing, in sales, uh, we can even say that some people are brainwashed about the message from the company, from the vendor, and anything, and maybe they forget about the big things that are interesting for their customers. And finally, most of customers maybe do not care about all the latest features, but will be happy that the technical sales can tell them why they can get advantages with Oracle because of the reliability of it, because of the things that are there for a long time. So that was also interesting to see that people at Oracle, we know a lot of product managers really open to users going to conferences, but there are also a lot of people at Oracle that do not go to conferences, and they also like to get this feedback. So yeah, this session was nice also to discuss about those topics. Yeah.
Good. All right, Frankie. Uh, I think we are almost at the end of our Golden Talk session now, and I would like to thank you very much. We talked really about so many things here and very interesting things today that I'm very happy. And also, I'm happy to know more about you, your life, your career, and all of the things that you shared with us. So thanks for that. And once again, thanks for all your achievements and your success in your career. And I also want to thank you everyone that is watching us. And if you didn't give your like on the video, and if you like it, please don't forget to do the like. And if you're not subscribed on the channel, please go ahead and don't forget to subscribe now, okay? Because I'm a DBA, but sometimes I try to be a YouTuber guy. Just joking.
And thank you very much for what you do. I mentioned that at conferences, it's important to meet people and also to talk
Yeah.
not only about big technical things. And that's, I think that's really interesting also. DBA is a job that you don't learn at university usually.
That's true.
And so it may be interesting for people starting in IT to see people talking about their career and what they do and everything, and that's really a really good thing, especially when everybody is locked down and cannot travel. It's really good to have those discussions. Thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, I am the one here that only ask thank you reviewer because it's very nice. I learn a lot. I am very happy to receive all people here, and I'm very happy to have you here, Frankie. And hope when you come to Brazil, we can drink some caipirinha. Okay, don't forget that.
Sure, sure.
Okay, okay. So that's it, guys. That's it, everyone. Thank you very much. Oh, Pichits, are you talking Portuguese? Oh, I thought you was not understand Portuguese, but he's saying muito obrigado.
Yeah, but Petit travels a lot. Huh?
Yeah.
I think
Good.
Brazil is a bit too far to go by motorbike, but
Good. Oh, he's saying that he spent months in Curitiba. That's good. Good. It's a good place. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and hope see you soon on next Golden Talks. And the guys from Brazil, the next session on next week is gonna be in Portuguese. So take a look who will be in the next Golden Talks. It's a special guy. Okay, so stay tuned, and you're gonna see in a few seconds. Okay. And people say thanks once again, Frankie. And okay, that's it. This is the end, and see you soon, guys. Bye
thank
bye.
you. Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Bye bye.